Welcome back, boys, to another matchup preview episode. Thanks to any of you who watched and liked or tuned in live to the show with Griff last night. That was something new for me, never run a guest on the show. Definitely went over time, perhaps, but yeah, got some nice feedback, which is good. I know some of you really appreciated the just the general discussion or the buy low, sell high topics. We probably didn't go into that as much as we should, but we've already spoken about another one of those sooner rather than later. I think on weeks where there's some hot button topics in regard to waivers, I'll reach out to Griff and see if he's keen to come in and have a yarn about it. So do my best to keep him coming back. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about some data, guys. Before we kick off for round 11, I think we're at. Yeah, 11. All the Brizzy teams, or Queensland teams, I think play at home this week. Pretty sure. So Friday night games could be a bit wet, but then we're solid for the weekend, which looks good. I think it's the Finns Friday night and everything else is all good. Like the Broncos on Sunday should all be sweet. And then Sydney-wise, yeah, pretty rainy, pretty wet, but I mean, the footy's been flowing sort of regardless, I think, so just keep an eye on that. Just moving myself over here, actually. Game 1 is the Knights and the Para Eels. What I've changed, you'll notice a change, is I've just been building out the summary piece of my model a little bit better because I kind of knew what the discrepancy meant, but it wasn't very helpful when I posted the image or the graphic on Twitter. So, yeah, I've built in better sort of summary commentary thing here. So we'll just read that really quickly. The Knights are producing consistent scores and they're leaking Supercoach points. Eels are struggling to generate Supercoach outpoint and they're leaking Supercoach points. Yet there's no clear Supercoach edge on paper. Both teams have have the same amount of strengths and weaknesses when it comes to the matchups on Supercoach points. Key call out is Bradman Best with the elite matchup. And great matchup for the right half, left 2RF hooker and right winger Schiller for the Knights. Right 2RF, good matchup for KPP. The left side, it looks a little bit leaner, but I'm still backing in the Knights left side just because of how much better their actual footy is than the right side. Great matchup for our boy Dylan Lucas, so he keeps rolling, which was part of the forecasting that you might have seen on Supercoach Council stuff when he recommended him as a buy-in classic. So that's good, and the Knights are still dominant down their left, where they are an elite team down there when it comes to other teams' edges. The Eels also dominant down their left. The gun matchup for the lock, pretty irrelevant. Elite matchup for the right centre, pretty irrelevant. Great matchup for the front rowers and the left winger, which is good for Addo-Carr people in classic and draft. So he's definitely So he's definitely a plug and play, or he just should be owned. I'd say at this point, Addo-Carr is turning good shape into line breaks, which is what we need. Tough matchups for the right half and fullback, and poor matchup for the fullback and the right 2RF. So potentially we're sitting Iongi if we can in classic formats. But you go ahead with Moses and whatnot, and you might even VC Moses after what the Knights throw up to the Titans. Maybe there's something in that. Game 2, Bulldogs piling up big Supercoach numbers and they're shutting teams down defensively. Roosters are piling up big Supercoach numbers as well, one of the better teams, and they're limiting opposition as well. But the Bulldogs have the slight edge given the sort of conditions of all the matchups. Even though there's some bright lights for the Roosters front rowers, we all know that that's not something to over-invest in, and then it's pretty neutral. And that tells me from how long I've been doing this is that regardless of what these matchups are saying, the points may or may not flow anyway. Sometimes two good teams create a different quality level of football where points flow. Sometimes two bad teams where it should be points, it's a different level of quality football and it may not flow. There's just that chaotic volatility in footy, so just bear that in mind and don't over-invest into this. It's more about maybe this isn't the week to captain Tedesco in classic, or you maybe don't vice-captain Tedesco in classic, that sort of thing. The only real call-outs that are worthy is the right half and the fullback for the Dogs. Right winger, left centre for the Dogs are pretty good. It's pretty neutral and worse after that. Similarly for the Roosters, the lock and the left 2RF, Angus Crichton, have great matchups, and then the hooker has a good matchup, and then it's pretty neutral and bad for the rest of the Roosters side. So pretty lean there. The Bulldogs are dominant down their right where they're elite at the moment, which is interesting thanks to Critter and Karaz hammering it in the last couple of weeks. The Roosters are balanced across the board, but they're pretty good in their balance. Like they're scoring sort of everywhere and they're scoring pretty well, as you can tell by the commentary there. They're piling up big Supercoach numbers. Game 3, Dolphins. Hammer off the rip has a gun matchup. So for Hammer owners, this could be a great week to VC him potentially, but the Warriors are a better team. Dolphins are producing consistent scores and they're conceding at a moderate rate. Warriors are struggling to generate Supercoach output and they're conceding at a moderate rate. Dolphins have a slight edge conditions, but the Warriors are a pretty good footy team. So how does that all work? It's the lower distribution of scoring across the board, even though everyone's scoring okay, and they're just not blowing teams apart. They've had a bunch of tight games, golden points, all that sort of stuff, and it's not been like a super explosive Supercoach scoring. Like, have their wingers and centers have been really lean. Even when Tuapiki scores, he's scoring 40. That's what I'm talking about. Metcalf, who's running the show from scoring with Aaron Clark, it's still sub 100 sort of stuff, generally speaking. So you can see what I'm talking about and why the data's a bit confused. Like, with their on-field performance, it doesn't know that they're top of the table or anything. It's just going on Supercoach, so keep that in mind. On the Warriors, they're dominant in the middle, which is also a sign of a team that doesn't have that explosive outside back type setup. You know, like they're not getting those 120s from their wingers and stuff, which boosts the overall team's output. It's all sort of grit and grind for the Warriors. Finn's dominant down their edges, so we see a bit of Asako, we see a bit of Herbie and Bostock sort of contributing to the scoring, but they're not like a lead or anything. They're just solid. Mentioned Hammer. Elite matchup for the left wing and the left 2RF. Ignore the front rowers. Right centre, good matchup, and it's bad for the right half. The lock, the left half, it's tough. Elite matchup for the Warriors is with the lock, so great for Aaron Clark, and the right half, so great for Metcalf owners, I think, in this one. Great matchup for the right centre, left half, and both wingers for the Warriors. That's great. The Warriors backline kind of buzzing a bit, and then a bit leaner for the left centre and the edge back rowers, who aren't good scorers anyway for the Warriors, really, in Supercoach. But you could start Leka Halasima in this one. I don't know whether he'll be detrimented by this matchup, but he could be by a minutes thing if RTS plays, so keep that in mind. Game 4. Cowboys are piling up big Supercoach numbers and they're conceding at a moderate rate. The Seagulls are struggling on form, not overall, but not on the season, but in form. So keep that in mind to generate Supercoach output, and they're leaking Supercoach points. Didn't help that the Sharkies did a number on them. Cowboys hold a significant edge. They could go large, and they're playing at home on a dry patch. So keep that in mind. Cowboys are elite down their left edge, and the Seagulls are dominant down their edges, but they're sort of fading from the top 3 of teams in their edge scoring. They were a top 3 right edge attack, and now they've kind of come back to, come back a little bit to the pack, so they're sort of middling there. Pretty big discrepancy for the Cows based on previous weeks here. Elite matchup for the right winger Derby, then it's great for the hooker, the right half, the left half, so Purdue did. And left centre this week is I'm blanking, but he got injured last year. We just spoke about him in the Discord and I've already forgotten his name. Zach Labut. Front rowers, good matchup, ignore it. Tough matchup for Drinky, the left winger, and the lock. For the Seagulls, elite matchup left to RF, right half, left half, and lock. Great matchup for the left centre. Neutral matchup for the right to RF, which is Olakawatu. Bad matchup for the front rowers and the right centre, Garrick. But who really knows what sort of footy these teams are going to throw up on the day. Game 5, Sharks Storm. Sharks are producing consistent scores and they're limiting opposition well. Storm piling up big Supercoach numbers and they're limiting opposition well as well. Storm hold a significant edge. They could go large, but also it could just be one of those arm wrestle type games. But I get the feeling the Storm continue to roll on possibly against the Sharks at home unless the rain really slows things down. For the Sharks, gun matchup for the left centre, Kyle Ero, who's a very popular trade-in in classic formats, so that's nice for him. Right to RF, elite matchup. That's great for Nickera, people who have bought low earlier and are looking for him to continue to improve. Right half, good matchup. Left half, good matchup. Left winger, Mulatalo, good matchup. But that is against the Storm, so just grain of salt with all that. Fullback neutral matchup, and it's bad for the right winger, left to have FRF, but again, not overvaluing the call out. Mid right good, so where the Sharks are performing well is in the middle down the right, and they're doing that at a good level, which is just strange because with Ero and Mulatalo you'd think there'd be a bump there on the left, but it just doesn't come out that way comparatively. The Storm are elite down their edges, so elite down their edges, not just good, they're elite. Storm left winger elite matchup, right to RF great matchup, left to RF good matchup, left centre good matchup, neutral for the front rowers, and it's bad for Puppy, bad for Jerome, and bad for the lock, but again, just don't overvalue the call out from the modelling. Play your Storm, guys. I think they're good players. Game 6, Broncos are producing consistent scores and they're shutting teams down defensively from a Supercoach perspective in the losing footy games. Dragons are actually piling up big Supercoach numbers. That's due to forward scoring well. It's due to Gutho. It's due to Val. It's due to guys hitting upside on the wings. And they're conceding at a moderate rate. So kind of like opposite sides of the spectrum here, which is weird due to the product on field. And there's no real Supercoach edge on paper as a result of sort of the differences to the two teams. Bronx dominant in the middle of the field with their scoring. That's your Payne Haas and whatnot, and Paddy Carrigan just consistently hammering it up. Dragons are elite down their left. They've been that way all year, so good for Corey Allen, people who are relying on him to deliver some upside, and Val Holmes, of course. For the Bronx, elite matchup for the right to RF and the left half. Great matchup for the fullback and the lock. Left winger, right winger, left good, right wing neutral, bad for the right centre, hooker, left centre. Not overvaluing those call-outs at all, guys. Dragons, great matchups only for the front rowers, and then it gets lean, but you're probably still playing your Dragons, guys, because you wouldn't have any... I don't think many people would be rostering their lesser known Dragons players, so carry on. Game 7, this is an interesting one. It's pretty solid for the Raiders with the worst matchups only being poor, and the Raiders are piling up big Supercoach numbers. They're limiting opposition well as well, pretty stingy. Titans are struggling to generate a lot of Supercoach output, and they're leaking Supercoach points. Raiders hold a significant edge. They could go large. Gun matchup for the left to RF, left half, right winger. Great matchup for left winger, hooker, right centre. So see the distribution. It's across the field. It's all good. Poor matchup for the front rowers and the right to RF, Hosking, but you go for him. Titans side, right winger elite matchup, and it's great for the right centre and the right to RF, and then it's neutral or worse for everyone else. So pretty dire, but I'm still firing up my Tino. Probably chuck a C on the big fella in this one. In another league. The Raiders are dominant. They're balanced with their scoring and they're elite. So they're in the top sort of 7, 8, I guess, of teams for all of those, making, in my estimation, them elite across the 3 channels. The Titans are strong down their right edge. That's as a result of like sort of Phil Sammy, Jaden Campbell type areas. Game 8, final game of the round. Thank God I'm running out of breath. Tigers are struggling to generate Supercoach output and they're leaking Supercoach points. Rabbitohs are struggling to generate Supercoach output and they're leaking Supercoach points. Tigers hold a significant edge despite both teams sucking, which is not good for the punnies, but you never know. Latrell could turn up and just dominate. Tigers dominant in the middle, which has been the case all year. Rabbitohs are good down the left, but they're not even good down the left, if you get me, comparative to the rest of the league. Gun matchup for the right to RF Safar. He's pretty much irrelevant, but if he's your 3rd, 4th, maybe you start him. FRF elite matchup, fullback elite matchup for the Tigers. Hooker elite matchup, right centre elite matchup. It's neutral for the left winger. It's good for the right half, and it's great for the left to RF. So see, we've got a great matchup in our negative call-outs. That's really good signs for the Tigers, but again, who knows what type of footy they'll throw up. It doesn't get worse for tough than the Rabbitohs, with the right winger and the left centre having tough matchups, the left to RF having a poor matchup, and then it's pretty good for everyone else. Starting with the hooker, the right half, and the left winger for the Rabbitohs, all with gun matchups. Elite matchup for the front rowers, great matchup for the fullback, Latrell, as I mentioned. So pretty nice for both teams in different sort of ways, but again, I just could not predict this game. I could not tell you what's going to happen. The Rabbitohs are winning games without being Supercoach relevant to that level. You could go ahead and play Bud Sullivan and Jamie Humphreys. You could go ahead and play Sione Fainu type names in deep leagues for plug and plays. I think Coruscant will play 80 in this one, so there's a chance that you could fire him up and get something out of him, which he hasn't really been too relevant all season. So that's the sort of read out there. No questions on this week. I haven't received any. I haven't really also been probably putting it out there, but that's all good. That's really pretty much it. Guys, don't forget, I'm still have the 3-round forecaster available on my site. Haven't had any requests this week. Doesn't bother me, but I just don't want people to forget it and think that was a one-time thing. It is there if you do have some players that you need to consider their outlook over the next 3 weeks. It does... No, I was going to say it does have buy round impacting, but it doesn't. I've actually got that in a different model I built for myself, which was a classics trade model. So don't ignore my tangent there. But that's it. I'll get out of here because last night was a long potty. This is a nice and quick one. Thanks for listening. Good luck in your matchups. And hit the like button if you got some value out of this one. I really appreciate it. See you guys.